For the first time in the winter sports season, it is our LC SportsNet podcast delivered by Penn, Ohio Bottled Water as we get ready to deliver you all the goods to begin this 2023-2024 winter season, as we'll have coverage on Lawrence County SportsNet. Obviously, boys and girls hoops teams, and we'll have some wrestling coverage as well, some hockey coming up right away next week on the network as well, and of course some bocce. And here's a new one for you. There's bowling on the schedule for this coming for the winter season. And that makes my host, I am the host, James Dotson. My guest here tonight, Lee Moan, I know is very pleased to hear about some bowling talk coming up in the future for sure. Mr. Moan, thanks for joining us, sir.
You're quite welcome. Interesting. I just took my nephew out bowling the other day, so it'd be fun to have that on the network for sure.
Yeah, we'll get you some details on that coming up. I believe that'll be right after the new year. We'll get a bowling match on here. And there's a lot of unified bocce, the wrestling matches for sure. Hockey and Michiana against Wilmington coming up. But we're here to talk about the big sport in the winter, the hardwood, the basketball competition, and we had some great teams from a year ago that we had a chance to follow all the way to the Peterson Event Center here in Lawrence County, including one team that took it all the way to Hershey last year and came back. How sweet it was in school's first state championship. So why don't we start with this, as we're going to preview all 16 teams, in different levels, of course, the 8 boys and the 8 girls teams in the county, but
we do need to make mention real quick, though, of the couple of rule changes you're going to see in basketball here in the winter, and it's going to cause a mix-up for sure. Players, coaches, officials are going to have to get used to it, and fans are going to have to adjust as well, and there's going to be a lot of misunderstandings early on, so let's just get this out of the way. There is no more 1-and-1 free throws anymore. It used to be at 7 free throws, you'd have the 1-and-1, then once you got to 10 fouls, then it would be a 2-shot foul for the rest of the half. That is gone. It is all 2-shot fouls, and it comes after the 5th team foul of every quarter. So the fouls will reset not at halftime, but at the end of each quarter. So once you have your 5th personal foul on your team, unless it is a offensive player control foul, it will be shooting fouls, 2-shot fouls for the rest of the quarter, and then we'll reset back to 0 when you get into the second quarter, the third quarter, and so on. So it matches the professional game, it matches the women's college basketball game exactly. So get used to it. It's going to take a little bit of adjustment, not seeing those 1-and-1 opportunities and seeing the free throws happening at only 5 fouls instead of 7. The other note that was given to us by our good friend, official Mr. John Yerich, is that inbound spots are a little bit different in the front court. If there is a defensive foul or some kind of violation on the defense or a timeout called in the front court, there are only 4 spots that the ball can be inbounded on either side of the key, 3 feet out from the boundary of the lane of the key there, or at the 28-foot line, the volleyball line essentially, on either sideline. Those are the only places you can inbound in the front court. If it is if it's a foul, a violation, or a timeout. If the ball goes out of bounds in the front court, or in the backcourt for that matter, it's just like it has always been for an out of bounds in the backcourt. It goes out of bounds and is taken back inbounds at the nearest spot from where it went out of bounds, or from where the nearest spot of that foul is. So it stays the same in the backcourt, but in the front court, as long as it wasn't the defense knocking the ball out of bounds, you're going to be inbounding at one of 4 designated spots. So again, it'll take a little adjustment by the officials, but just kind of get used to it, especially with the 1-and-1s. We'll work through it and get used to it. But there's the official message. So hopefully everybody's not going crazy right at the beginning of the year. So now let's get back into actually talking about some basketball here.
No better place to start than with the defending state champion Union Scotties from a year ago. They ended the year on a 17-game winning streak and get the school's first ever state championship. Lee, this is a team, though, they lost 4 seniors from last year's squad, yet still are definitely favorites to be making a big long run again, because they got their top 2 scorers back this year.
Yeah, one of the local newspapers had them ranked number one coming in. Kelly Kleber and Kylie Frustorfer. Kylie, both really fun to watch. Kylie, just a great floor general, great 3-point shot, and she can also penetrate. But Cleaver really dominates down low when she gets the chance.
How fun was it though in that Cal championship game? You mentioned Kylie as the ball handler, really setting up the offense. How about they moving the 6-foot center Kelly Cleaver to the point guard position? Something that they claimed they had never practiced before, but knew they could do, and that's really what got them that Cal championship. Shows the versatility in Cleaver, now a senior who's knocking on the door of 1,000 career points.
Well, that's what a good coach does. And Rob Nogue is like, hey, this isn't working. We're going to try this. I trust my players, and it worked. And Kylie Cleaver only 30 points away from that 1,000 points. She should get that as long as she stays healthy in the first couple of games.
And mentioned in those first couple of games, want to say this: it's a 17-game winning streak. That streak, I have a feeling, is not going to last very long. Listen to this incredible non-conference schedule that Coach Nogue has put up for the defending state champions for Class 1A. They are going to be playing in North Allegheny Tip-Off Tournament. That'll feature games. It'll feature games against Greensburg Central Catholic, Upper St. Clair. So there's a 4A, 5A battle right there. Shenango, the defending champions in Class 2A. You'll face Neshannock, obviously a great power always up in the Lawrence County area. Arleta, the Sacred Heart, Avonworth, Blackhawk, all on the schedule. Union's going to be tested early, and that's what prepares great teams, though, for these stretch runs, though, right, Lee?
It sure does, and that is insane. A schedule for a 1A school. You might be able to catch that one of those games in the North Allegheny Sports Network on Friday, or if they're playing North Allegheny.
At the moment, it looks like not, but we know how those can shuffle all over with those preliminary tournaments. So we'll keep an eye on the Scotties and see if they can bring more gold back here to Lawrence County. Union will have some tough work early on for sure. One of those games you mentioned in the non-conference that they're going to have to face, or the non-section, I should say, is against Shenango, the defending 2A WPIAL champions. They're going to have their work cut out for them for sure. You lose 3 scorers who really led the team, a couple of 1,000-point scorers in there as well for that Shenango team. The third, who was pretty darn close to breaking the 1,000 career point mark. Coach LaRocco has done incredible things his first 2 years with the Cats, and this is a team that is going to compete. It might take a couple of years to get back up to that full level, but this is a team that's going to be fighting hard.
Yeah, it was a great run last year. You lose all that talent, but I mean, Maddie Long, Amara DeFrank, and Elise Lenhart coming back. Amara DeFrank was those 3 fun to watch last year, but a very good defensive team. Coach LaRocco has there also, but it was a great run for the Shenango Wildcats. And
Shenango, only 5 losses a year ago. Again, they'll be tested early on as well. A couple of good non-section games, including actually an early one as a rematch of last year's Class 2A championship game. Shenango against Freedom, a little cat dog fight in the non-section. How do you feel about that, Lee, of going and scheduling your championship opponent from just 8 months ago and scheduling them in the non-section right away?
I love it. Love to get those 2 schools back together. Freedom is, I believe, they're ranked number 1 or 2 in some of the local publications already. Shay Bailey's back. She got hurt late in the year, so it's gonna be a fun test. I love those non-section games, like you said. It's so much fun. Good for teams to have that, and it builds for down the road.
Yeah, watching those 2 teams for sure. Again, losing some of their top players, but a couple coming back, and who's going to be the next team and the next set of players to step up. That will be the big key for both the Scotty Dogs and the Wildcats. Want to talk another set of dogs, though. How about the other district champion from a year ago, the Wilmington Greyhounds, D10 champs from a season ago, up there in the Great White North. And when you talk about the Wilmington Lady Greyhounds, such a young, talented team. They only lose 2 from graduation from a year ago. But the fact of the matter is, you have a player who has averaged over 20 points per game in each of her first 2 years. Leah Crarup is going to keep on driving this Wilmington team, but it's the supporting cast around her that has been really, really fun. Maya Jekovic and company really setting the tone for that team.
Yeah, we got a chance to see Leah Crarup, I believe, play some softball last year, too. Quite the athlete. She only needs about 151 points to get to 1,000. She should get that in the first 7 or 8 games. But a nice young team. They got also a tough schedule early on, too. But we'll see how they show up in District 10.
Yeah, and I'd say they just got a new add into Mohawk's Christmas tournament as well. So maybe hint, wink, wink. Maybe that's where we need to be going over the holiday break there, Lee.
I hope you do, because I'll be in Virginia.
Well, we'll be allowing you some great coverage then to be checking out. But yeah, that Wilmington team is going to be fun to watch. And again, a team I think is trying to challenge themselves early on with that non-region schedule. Love seeing it for sure. Let's jump back into WPIL country. The WPIL runner-ups from a year ago, the Laurel Spartans, 24-4 from a year ago, but a couple of tough outs in the WPIL championship and then in the state playoffs. They're going to have a tough time in figuring out where their scoring is going to come from. Well, that's what happens when you lose your program's all-time leading scorer in Reagan Atkins, and plus a few others who are pretty quality scorers as well on that Laurel team. Oh, and you have a new coach in Brian Henney who's going to be coming into the fold.
Yeah. Let's just throw everything out the window and start anew. Yeah, Reagan Atkins and Joanna Hill and Daniel Ponches, Fortuna last year. Boy, did they have quite the year. But you have to rebuild. I mean, fortunately, you can't stay at school all your life, so you have to prepare. And the young kids got to step up. And the good news about the younger kids, they played against those kids in practice, so they know what tough competition is all about.
Yeah, you'll probably see Kendra Ruperto and Tori Atkins kind of leading the way. They got a good chunk of minutes these last couple of years, and that's the thing about this Laurel team. You know why they began this great stretch these last 4 years with those players we mentioned? Well, a good number of them started as freshmen on a WPIL championship team, and if they didn't start, they were right off the bench. So you're going to have some more young players, rightly, who are going to be getting the call early, who will step up and maybe make the next run for the Spartans.
Yeah, it'll probably take a few games to get in sync with the new coach, get his system put in, and the kids have to trust that coach and get everything in place. And so look for Laurel, maybe. Hopefully, it won't get off the slow start, but don't be surprised, especially with the newer kids and the younger team.
Already seeing stuff on social media from their Instagram page. It's a lot of fun to follow the Lady Spartans. They're having fun. They're ready to go. They're going to have battles for sure because this is a very difficult section. They were actually co-champions last year in the section with Neshannock. That's what we'll talk about now, the section co-champs from a year ago. They also graduating a ton of seniors and a ton of scorers. Man, I mean, Marin Haggerty leading the way. I mean, that's a 22 points per game player in Marin Haggerty from a year ago, but throw in Pallarino and DeLillo and Nogue. You essentially lost the entire starting five, but if there's anybody who can go and find replacements, it's Coach G. Yeah,
Coach G, over 700 career victories, the Hall of Famer, and she'll have that team ready for sure. And it's going to start with defense with Coach G. She's got another Nogue in there, so that's always a good thing. And Jaden Nogue, when you have a Nogue in your lineup, you got a chance for sure. And when you have a Newman in your lineup, and Peyton Newman, their two sisters, very productive in the basketball team, and we'll see if the younger sisters can get it done here this year.
Yeah, so familiar names, but new faces technically for the Neshannock Lancers for sure. The other couple teams that we're going to look at from their section, let's talk about the Mohawk team that made it into the playoffs, but they ended up losing three of the playoff game and then the consolation games to keep them out of the state tournament as well. They have a new coach, Matt Walsh. He's got a big-time pedigree to work with. When you have been coaching at Blackhawk, I think that tells you enough about what kind of coaching pedigree he's going to be bringing here to the Warriors.
Yeah, Blackhawk, they made it to the PIAA finals last year also. And Blackhawk, just an historic program for sure. So he'll take his ideas of what he learned at Blackhawk and adjust it to this Mohawk program. It was pretty good for a couple of years. You got Aaron Capelpo coming back at 16 points a game. She's got a lot of size underneath, and you could see her improve from her freshman year up upon. Now her can be the senior this year, and she should be fun to watch.
And the high energy, I mean, we saw that all through the back-to-back championship teams that Mohawk had with the three different players going over 1,000 points. And yeah, I think Aaron Capalbo obviously leading the way, but to get a couple of those role players, Deani Rivas, Chloe Fadden, getting it done defensively first and turning that high energy into offense will be fun to see again. You got a new coach, you have to be able to make the adjustments and get used to the new coaching style. But from Blackhawk to Mohawk, that's not a huge difference, at least linguistically. But not that counts for much, right, Lee?
It doesn't, but I'm sure Coach Walsh will be fine. I knew I was going to throw Brian in there because it's not Brian, it's Matt. So
Matt Walsh, the high energy man.
Yeah,
bringing
I'm sure you remember Brian Walsh, don't you?
I do not. Enlighten us.
I believe it was from played for Montour or Moon, one of those two. Very very successful point guard in the WPIL. Just a few years back, anyways.
Well, hopefully this Mr. Walsh can get a Brian Walsh level of point guard coming up in the next couple of years with the Mohawk team to get that program right back to where it was not too long ago. Here's another team I think is very up and coming. Elwood City missed the playoffs last year, only 2-8 in that tough section. But here's the thing. They lost just one player, only one senior from last year, and she wasn't high on the scoring aspect, was Ms. Garraway. I think she was 5th or 6th in the leading scorers on the team. But Elwood City had a lot of injuries, kind of players in and out of the lineup. But they do return their top 3 scorers in Kayla Jones, a junior, Claire Noble, a senior, and Delaney Surgeon, a junior as well. So you have 3 quality offensive players to work with and a team that has had a lot of time to gel together. You have to feel like this is an Elwood City team that might be able to make that next step.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, they had a little bit of success last year, because when you return three starters and three your leading scorers got coming back from last year, you got to be very very hopeful for the season for sure.
No, we got to see Claire Noble, especially here in the late parts of the volleyball season, and we've been it's been fun watching her over her career. It's going to be sad to see her go after the end of this year, but she's someone who also has the potential to be knocking on the door of 1,000 points by the end of this season. If she matches what she's done the last 2 years, she will hit it.
Yeah, she averaged 12 points a game last year, so hopefully she can improve that upon this year.
Good force as a 6-foot senior for Elwood City. And now we'll go up north. The only team remaining to talk about here on the girls' side is the Canes of Newcastle. And for Newcastle here, the thing you're going to have to be looking for more than anything, obviously, is just looking for continued improvement. The numbers are going back in the correct direction in terms of just numbers that are able to get on the court. But again, a ridiculously tough section. Nice that they have a trio back of young players. And again, a lot of these players who were starting as freshmen or sophomores who are getting all this experience early that now are going to be a chance to maybe shine a little bit better, hopefully, as the season goes forward into their junior and senior years.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, they had a very, very rough year last year, but experience is definitely the key. So they grab that experience, and hopefully you said, Joe, for this year, and at least improve upon from last year.
Yeah, Rihanna Boyce, Armani Walker, the 2 leading scorers, and Diamond Richardson. She did shine bright like a diamond, especially from beyond the arc a year ago. And the other thing, too, with the Joseph sisters, they're coaching that squad, that they're going to put the heart and soul into that team. And you just hope that the young ladies of Newcastle are able to respond to that. And, hey, they saw a couple of upset victories or near upset victories throughout the course of the year. They battled hard in a lot of those games. It's going to be fun to see what they can come up with here this season.
Well, watching Maria play over the years, she was a fierce competitor herself, and she's putting that upon her team for sure.
Kara and Maria, Joseph leading the way for that Newcastle squad. And That's also crazy too. It was Maria who was the head coach, and then Karen, now Karen Denarder Joseph, taking over for her sister, and now Maria is assisting back for Kara. So it is a fun family affair, and the traditions run deep there between the sisters and that entire team. Though there are the 8 girls teams in terms of what to expect maybe for this season. What we're going to do is we're going to step aside for a moment. We'll come back and we will talk about the boys and preview their seasons upcoming here in the LC SportsNet podcast series. It's the winter 2023-24 preview show here at lcsportsnet.com.
Don't get left out to dry. Call the Penn Ohio Bottled Water Company for the fastest and most efficient bottled water delivery service in the area. Penn Ohio offers bottled water ranging from 16.9-ounce bottles to 5-gallon jugs, perfect for your next event or office water cooler system. Also, don't forget to ask about their custom labeling options. Visit PennOhioBottledWater.com for more information and to get a quote on their delivery services. Whether it's at home, in the office, or on the sidelines, Penn Ohio has you covered.
And make sure you give Penn Ohio Bottled Water a call and get delivery of your fresh bottled water straight to your home or work. And whether it's in 5-gallon jugs or individual bottles, and don't forget about their custom label options. We thank again Penn Ohio Bottled Water. They've been so good to us this year, allowing us to bring you these preview shows throughout the course of the season. Here, the basketball preview show, previewing the entire season across the WPIL and District 10 for Lawrence County. I'm James Dotson, Lee Moan joining us. And Lee, let's pick up right where we left off. We finished the girls' side of things with the Lady Canes. Let's jump on over to the Running Red Hurricane of Newcastle and Coach Blundo's Red Hurricane, the defending WPIL runner-ups from a year ago and section champions. But, I mean, you know it's going to be, obviously, another tough ask for Coach Blundo. You lost Isaiah Boyce, one of the top three-point shooters in county history, over 270 that he made. Jonathan Anderson, who was just such a fun player to watch over his 4 years as a starter. Really, when it comes down to it, you're losing 4 starters from a year ago, and you're going to have Ralphie Blundo as probably is definitely the top returning scorer for this Newcastle team. You're going to see a lot of new faces out there for the red, white, and black here this year.
And how unusual not to see Newcastle ranked in the top 5 in the preseason. But
Yeah.
just keep in mind, Mr. Dodson, that Newcastle, I believe, is 9 or 10 years straight that they've been in at least the semifinals in the highest classification. So never, ever count a Newcastle team out. They're sort of like the Thomas Jefferson in football, where Thomas Jefferson didn't make it to the semis this year in football. But in Newcastle, it's just like Coach Blundo finds a way. He's been in the semis every year he's been there.
Every year he's been there, you're right, and that means he's been a state qualifier every year that he has been the head coach. A couple of the other names that want to keep your eye out for. J.T. Warren probably is going to be the top threat in the post. Kyrell Harris, we saw him on the gridiron as the quarterback. Expect him to see some more minutes. Demarion Young, he had some quality time last year for the Canes. And it's going to be exactly that, I think. You're going to see a lot of players early on in the year kind of going through the rotation until Coach Blundo can figure out which players he can trust, which ones are going to be ready to go for the prime time on those Tuesday and Friday nights.
He's gonna have to figure it out quick, because that section with Butler, North Allegheny, Pine Richland, Central Catholic, good luck. He's gonna have to figure it out quick.
Well, they will adjust, but that's what we know and we expect best is Coach Blundo getting his teams up and ready to go for sure. Let's move our way down in the classifications. Let's take a look at Class 3A. Let's start with the Neshannock Lancers. That was a very fun season. Kind of flew under the radar when you think about it, Lee, but made it to the WPL semifinals, a couple of wins in the state playoffs as well. They finished with a 20-8 record last year. I think it's just really fun, when you saw this Neshannock team, because they did it mainly with the defense first and foremost. I can't tell you how many games they were holding their opponents under 40 points. I felt like they did that all year. That's kind of the Ralph Blundo mantra. If you're holding your opponent under 10 points per game, or per quarter, you're around 40 per game, and you should have a chance to win. Well, that's exactly what Coach Sean Corey has done up at Neshannock, and they've used it to success. Last year, one of the best years we've seen in Neshannock probably in the last 30-some years.
Yeah, you lose Jack Gleese, 17 points a game, but that team was just so gritty, so fun to watch. Just like you said, the defensive style. They'll hit you. They'll run with you. They'll do anything they can to get the victory. But they were a very physical team last year, and they'll probably have to do that again this year.
Yeah, if they're playing their games in the 30s or 40s, I think they'll be plenty happy and have a chance to be doing exactly what they did a year ago. And they have a sophomore in Davey Quat who is probably going to step into that lead scoring role. You mentioned Gleese being that lead dog last year. Yeah, Davey Quat, he played pretty darn well as a freshman last year.
Yeah, he sure did. I mean, his dad was one of the leading scorers up in the Shannock back in the days. But yeah, he showed a lot of potential for sure.
Yeah, 9 points per game for him. And you'll see, I think Jackson Zaka, Finn Haggerty had a couple of good games in the playoffs. LJ Keith was hurt last year. He was a strong player. A lot of guys who were getting the time over the course of the year, again, now ready to step up into that starting role where there are 4 or 5 seniors who have graduated. It's the opposite scenario for Mohawk. They graduate just 1 senior from a year ago in Devin Sujak, 10 points per game for him. But the co-champions from the section last year with Mohawk and Neshannock tying for that section championship, they bring back a couple of big-time scorers, including an 1,000-point scorer in Jay Rona. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about some of the similar names we just heard throughout the football season.
Yeah, Jay Rona, Bobby Fadden, they were great teammates on the football field. They're a great combination. They're going to be a great combination on the basketball court for sure. Jay Rona needs 616 points to break the Mohawk scoring record. That's 25 a game or so. So you got a chance if you have a long season. I mean, they had a great start off last year. Coach Allaire had his team really rolling, but then unfortunately lost a few down the stretch and stumbled in the playoffs. But you got all that great experience coming back, and you got Rona running the show. So they got a good chance here this year. They're ranked number 1 in the preseason.
Understandably so, yeah. They were 20-2 going into the when the playoff brackets were announced. Then they lost. They lost the regular season finale to Neshannock. Then they lost a exhibition game, kind of a playoff tune-up, and a close one to Central Valley. But then they play in the playoffs. They lose in the second round, and then 2 more consolations, kind of like what the girls did. The consolation games just didn't go their way. So Mohawk lost 5 of their last 6 games. And that record of 20-6 is kind of deceiving with that one, and also is deceiving when you talk about Rona as the top scorer, because he wasn't. It was Bobby Fadden, averaging nearly 18 a game last year.
Yeah, he was from inside, outside. He did a little bit of everything. And then you also got the Hopper twins, and you got the whole football team coming back. The Hopper, Retort, the Nail brothers, Rona Fadden. So we'll see how long it takes to get their basketball legs on from the football season they just had.
Well, we'll talk about the full tip-off weekend schedule here in a moment. Mohawk not playing in the tip-off here this weekend, not playing in any tip-off tournament, likely due to exactly that, giving their team some extra time to get ready for the upcoming season. While we're talking about that, here's another team that actually is not doing any tip-off games this weekend. The Union Scotties, 25-4 a year ago. Again, one of the best runs that you've seen in program history from a year ago. But kind of like Neshannock, kind of like Newcastle, lost a lot of the offense. 9 seniors. You lose your all-time program leading scorer in Matt Stanley. It's going to be very, very difficult to replicate what they've done these last couple of years here, Lee, with a couple of WPIL silver medals. But you do have a couple of good athletes to help try to bring that back to bring some more success back to Union.
Well, there's still one more Stanley on the team, and Lucas Stanley, and boy, could that kid shoot! He was lights out. I mean, when he got an open 3, I mean, he was almost 50% from 3-point land. He can flat out shoot. And then you got Braylon Thomas, everything athlete up there to bring it home. Unfortunately, he's a Cleveland Brown fan, but we will still like him. I had to throw that in there. So
we knew you did. We knew it was coming.
But yeah, that's going to be tough because Coach Stanley likes that run and gun style, but does he have the scores to be able to that play continue to play the up and down style? We will find out to see who's going to be able to step up. Maybe Grayson Blakely, but only 28 points last year, so he's got a lot to rebuild.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. Lucas Stanley averaged 10 points a game. Braylon Thomas, 6.5 points per game, but you hit it right there. Next leading scorer of players coming back is Grayson Blakely with just 28 all year. But, again, when you had 9 seniors that were working the rotation, it was tough for,
Right.
The guys like a Grayson Blakely or a Jamel Mitchell or Rocco Galmarini, guys that we've been talking about so much in the other sports, they really didn't get a lot of time to get on the court. Now they're going to have their chance, and we'll see who can step up and get it done.
Yeah, Union just such a great year. Unfortunately, Monty Christian was in that 1A bracket. I mean, they gave it everything they had for sure. But it was a fun year for the Union Scotties, and hopefully they can get back in the mix of things this year.
They're going to have a game early on against Elwood City, as we'll jump back up to the higher classifications we missed on Elwood City. And part of it is because, well, hey, guess what? They got a new coach. Or is it really a new coach? Is it a new coach if it's the same coach but from a different sport, Lee? How do we exactly quantify that?
Well, I don't think it is actually, but wherever Coach Bradley goes, he's a winner. I mean, he's the football coach there, but he was the football coach at Our Lady of Sacred Heart, which he, took his teams to the finals. He was the coach at Avonworth boys basketball for a few years, did a great job there. So now he's going to be the coach here at Elwood, and you would think, well, when you have Joe Roth there, you got a good chance. Nice situation they'd be coming into when you have one of the leading scorers in the WPIO on the team.
Yeah, 30 points a game last year. And what killed me when going through the stats and looking at this is that he not only did he average a double-double, Lee, he had a double-double in 19 out of the 20 games that he played last season. 19 out of the 20 games, Joe Roth had a double-double. And that was a junior. Now coming back for his senior year, I mean, I'm not sure. Can you improve upon 30 points per game? I'm sure he's going to be looking to try, but at the same time, you're also going to be looking at hopefully a supporting cast that can get a few more points around him to lighten the load a bit on Big Joe.
Yeah, but plus he's looking at another swimming championship too, which is still unheard of how you can be able to swim and play basketball at the same time. But they adjust the schedule to adopt for Joe to be able to make those practices. But I'm sure he's going to be in the mix. Coach Bradley is going to have him in that offensive scheme for sure.
And then you also wonder just what could have happened. They actually lost to Deer Lakes in the first round of the playoffs, and the Deer Lakes Lancers ended up being the team that went the distance throughout the WPL and state playoffs. So it's an Elwood City team that could have potentially been making some noise in the postseason yet again. And now with Dan Bradley there, any issues with this being the third coach in the last 3 years now for Elwood City?
When you got Coach Bradley there, I don't think so. I think he's going to be able to stabilize that program for sure and have them turning in the right direction.
He's going to have Roth, Smiley, and a multitude of others to work with to try to get that Wolverine team into the playoffs yet again and see if they can make some noise like they did a few years ago, making that run when it was Joe's freshman year. Was the 11 seed, making it to the WPIL champions in the end for the Elwood City Wolverines. Let's hop down to Class 2A now, and that tough section that Shenango and Laurel are in. We'll talk about the Shenango first. Shenango ended up losing to Aliquippa, 4 times in the season. Ended up being a tough finish for them throughout the course of the year. And looking into this year, they do lose 3 or 4 seniors from last year's starting lineup, but you do return a 1,000-point scorer and the third McQuiston to be on that 1,000-point mark for the Shenango Wildcats. Column's going to be the straw that stirs the drink for sure here for Shenango.
Yeah, he averaged 19 a game last year, and I don't think you want to mention Aliquippa right now to Shenango. I mean, that last game got pretty interesting to say the least in the playoff game. So put that game on the air as quick as you can when the Aliquippa Shenango rematch. It's going to be a fight. That whole section is. But Coach McQuistion had a chance to talk to him during the football season, and he's really looking forward to the season for sure.
Yeah, looking forward to hopefully the supporting cast jumping up And again, finding who's going to get into that rotation, who's going to work well with that offense. The Proctor brothers, who we're hearing, are healthy. And they look good in the preview night. I got a chance to check that out on their YouTube page. So this Shenango team, hoping to get back into the postseason. They have the weapons to do it, and hoping to make a little run of it as well. Their main competition beyond the Quips will be Northgate, and then we figure Laurel is going to be the team to watch for as well. Again, missed the playoffs last year. They lose their leading scorer from a year ago. But same thing, with all the injuries and the players in and out, Coach Kenny Locke was able to get a lot of young guys some time early, and that's going to pay dividends here in these next couple of years as they work their way, those sophomores now juniors, or juniors now seniors.
Yeah, he did it. He did a great coaching job last year. He said all the injuries, he somehow was able to get 7 victories on the year. But you got Aiden Fuchs, you got Lucas Santini, you got Jade Niorio coming back from last year, was gaining great experience, and I'm sure Coach Locke is thrilled to have them back, and hopefully he'll be able to get that team turned around this year to make that playoff run.
Coach Locke, I believe now, he would be the second, maybe third longest tenured head coach right now in Lawrence County, behind Coach Blundo and behind Coach Corey, who he was an assistant of before taking the job at his alma mater at Laurel. And the one player he doesn't have back, you mentioned Laven Barker. He also doesn't have one of his coaches back. One of his assistants, Nick Marmo, took the head coaching job up at Wilmington. So he will be taking over for the Hounds up in District 10, 3-19 a year ago. You lose your leading scorer from a year ago in Anthony Reed, but I guess the good news here, Lee, is he was the only senior on the roster. So you have, again, a lot of players who are coming back. Yeah, the team struggled at times to really get much going in that tough region up there. However, again, when you have a multitude of your players back, even with a new coach, it should be something that you have a little chemistry to build off of, right?
Boy, you know you're getting old when you see a player, Nick Marmo, watching him play for Newcastle back in the day. He was a force to begin with. But yeah, it's nice to have 3 players coming. Ben Miller, Colin Hill coming back. So he's hopefully he'll be able to establish his system and get that program turning in the right direction. They really struggled last year, the Hounds, but new coach, give him a year or two and see what he can do.
Yeah, and hopefully just get some of the numbers back up. The new PIAA enrollment numbers came out this week, and with that in mind, I mean, Wilmington is dropping down to Class 1A in football because their numbers are low. Their football team had, 26 or 25 by the end of the year on the sideline. And that's what you saw at the basketball team last year, and you're probably going to see it again this year. Might only have 10 to 12 who are able to come out for the Hoops team. This is something, though, about just building some momentum one game at a time, one practice at a time for the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, and hopefully the numbers can pick up, and you got to get into school and try to recruit some kids and the 7th, 8th graders, build that program up as much as you can to be able to get just set into the high school season.
There are your previews for the Lawrence County boys and girls basketball program and everything going on for the winter season. Mentioned I would talk real quick about what we can expect for the teams here in this opening weekend. Elwood City playing at Geneva on Friday for their first game. That's going to be taking on Hickory on Friday night. Believe that they will play again on Saturday, but do not know for sure, or that might just be a one-day tournament. Laurel is hosting a tournament at the Laurel New Gymnasium, as they call it. They will take on Mercer on Friday night and then take on Wilmington on Saturday. Wilmington will tip off 6 o'clock against Riverside on Friday night against the Panthers there at Laurel. Neshannock is going to be hosting their event. They'll take on Mercyhurst Prep on Friday night. Shenango also in that tournament. They are taking on Howland on Friday, and then the winners will face each other. So looking to see if we can get another Neshannock versus Shenango game in that one. Mentioned Mohawk and Union not playing an opening weekend on the boys' side. Newcastle will host Western Beaver on Friday, and then they are going to travel down to Geneva on Saturday night at 8 o'clock to take on the Blackhawk Cougars. On the girls' side of things, the Elwood City girls team, they're playing in the St. Joseph's tournament, so they're playing actually against St. Joe's at 3 o'clock on Friday, and will play again sometime on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's a good St. Joseph's team too. They're ranked number 2 in the WPIL coming out.
Yeah, they were a tough out in that tournament last year. Now they have a lot of players. I think they have all their players back.
Yeah, I think they do.
From a year ago. Laurel will be traveling to Slippery Rock for their tournament. They play Mars on Friday, and then they take on, I believe that's Aquinas Academy that they play on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Can't read my own shorthand writing for that one there. Apologies. Mohawk will be playing in the Newcastle tournament. They play against Shenango girls on Friday, and then we'll take on Riverside on Saturday. Mohawk don't know for sure who their Saturday competition is yet. They're still trying to finalize who's going to be part of that tournament. Neshannock is traveling up to Lakeview. They will take on Lakeview on Saturday night. They actually will play General McLean in that Lakeview tip-off on Friday evening. Newcastle as well, the girls will be in their own tip-off tournament playing on Saturday. Time and opponent to be determined. The Union Scotties are going to be traveling down to North Allegheny. That's going to be a fun one for them. We mentioned it earlier. Greensburg Central Catholic at 3:30 on Friday. Upper St. Clair at 12:30 on Saturday. So I'm sorry, Greensburg Central on Friday, Upper St. Clair on Saturday, and in Wilmington and Round Rock, they will play their tip-off tournament. Wilmington will up at Franklin on Friday and Saturday. So we're going to see some tough competition for some of our schools here in the early going. But again, that's only what's going to make your team better.
That's exactly what you want. You want the tougher the better. Unless you have a really, really young team, when I recommend. But you have this experienced team, like the Union Scotties girls team. You definitely want to play the cream of the crop. It's only going to make you better for your section and for the playoffs.
Well, there you have it. Your basketball preview show for the 2023-24 season here on Lawrence County SportsNet. Again, big thanks to Penn Ohio Bottled Water, allowing us to deliver these to you throughout the course of the year. Before we let you go, want to remind you, coming up Monday the 4th, we will have our first hockey broadcast of the year. Neshannock and Wilmington will do battle up at Hess Ice Rink. That is a 7:15 drop of the puck, so be ready for that one. We'll also have something later in the week. We don't know what yet, but one, maybe two, maybe three later on in the week. And then our first bocce match will be on Thursday the 14th as Freedom comes up to take on Shenango for a little preseason fun action there. You won't want to miss it. And I'm going to give a little shout out too, because it looks like the game plan is probably going to be for the bowling match. Mark it down on your calendar, Lee. Wednesday, January 17th, Blackhawk at Newcastle. Looks like is the one we're probably going to be taking a look at. So get that in your calendar, and hopefully we'll be being able to enjoy some bowling action. How about that for a new one here at lcsportsnet.com?
And I'm putting it in my calendar right now because it is open. So it is now, I'm officially yours on that day.
Beautiful. Well, that'll be a fun time for sure. We have potentially, as we got the schedule inked out, we could have up to 40 regular season broadcasts here over the winter months alone. And that's just the regular season. Before Hoops playoffs time comes around, and that's when things get absolutely berserk. And we're going to have a lot of fun here for sure. Lee, myself, and the entire Sportsnet crew bringing all of that to you. So thanks again, Lee. Thanks for
the good news is, you're welcome, and that's the good news is that's all indoor action also. We don't have to worry about getting wet, getting cold, or anything like that. All indoor action.
Well, you say that, but there was reports of a water main break over the holiday that postponed some preview nights at sites that will remain nameless. So you never know. Weather can still technically play a factor.
That's true. Well, if you're covering hockey at Hess, you do get a hat and gloves there too, because it is one of the coldest arenas around.
We warned Eric Thomas about our colleague who's going to be doing that game on Monday. We warned him about that. We made sure we need to warn him about wearing a helmet up there above the glass as well.
That's true.
So thanks again to Limo. Thanks again to Penn Ohio Bottled Water. I'm James Hodgson saying so long. Thank you for tuning in and getting prepared for the upcoming season. And stay tuned as we have great action coming for you all throughout the winter here in the Lawrence County SportsNet. It's powered by LCAP.